You're on, go ahead.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Wire.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Commissioner Thill.
Here.
And Mayor Denner.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So approved.
Second.
Any comments or concerns about the agenda? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Thill.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. We'll move down into appearances and acknowledgement. Item number 1. Jen, you want to bring us up to speed on acknowledge application for retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license and set data hearing of November 9th. MNK LLC, The Beauty Bar.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have before you as part of your agenda packet the completed application from our friends Matt and Katie Jarotowski. They are applying or would like to apply for a retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine at their newly established business, The Beauty Bar, located at 219 South Egan Avenue. All the paperwork is in place. Also part of your packet is the notice that we will publish on Thursday. All is in order as far as the finance office goes. You tonight would please acknowledge the application and set the date of hearing for Monday, November 9th at 5:30 p.m.
Do I have a motion to acknowledge the application for retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license and set the date of hearing of November 9th, MNK LLC / The Beauty Bar?
So moved. Second.
Jen, I have one question on this. Beans, is there 2 different addresses? I know it's one building for the Econo Wash and the Beauty Bar?
As per our conversation with Katie, it is actually one building. They are attached.
Right.
So they're requesting for the entire legal.
So we could have malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for people to drink in the laundromat too, Ned?
They are applying for that. Like I said, the legal as a whole is what this application here is. It's my understanding that it's not their intention to do so now, but as long as they were applying, they wanted to apply for the entire legal as posted. Okay? They will be here on March 9th, or excuse me, on November 9th to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Thill.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item 2. Chad, acknowledge time extension for project number 134943 FEMA 2019 September flood application number 4469 DR-SD.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor, and members of the commission, members of the public listening. In the agenda packet are 3 extension letters. Ms. Kristen Olson from the finance office had asked if I would give a brief update related to this. As these letters indicate, these are in response to a request for an extension for these the rock wall repair projects. There's 3 different sections we're referring to here. One would be north of 7th Street, one would be in Memorial Park, and the other one between Egan Avenue and Hart Avenue. Basically, we don't believe that the project will be able to get done by the original deadline. I believe that was May 18th or so, or 21st of 2021. We knew that it would be quite some time after that before we would be done, so it's just a formality, I guess one might say, to make this extension request, because we had correspondence with these folks with Office of Emergency Management well ahead of this extension, and the scope and nature of those projects and the timelines we've had so far in different meetings with FEMA, and of course there's a short construction window, and among many other things, developing the financing package and determining what is eligible based upon site inspections, based upon historic SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office criteria, and so on and so forth. It's just it's prudent to make this extension request. The original extension request was actually for quite a longer period, but the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Management folks only extend about 6 months at a time, or a year at a time approximately. So this extension was granted up until November 18th, about a year from now, of 2021. We're continuing to work on alternatives for these 3 repair locations, different repair alternatives, and working with FEMA and others to come up with a plan on how we're going to repair those, different alternatives for repairing those, preferably more economical alternatives to putting a rock wall back. And I should qualify that we will plan to put the rock wall back most definitely in the park, so we're not going to go away from that. But I don't want to get too much into the weeds at this point in time. I can try to answer more questions if you want, but with that, it's just an extension request at this point. We're continuing to develop the alternatives and work through FEMA and their processes. I'd be happy to stand by for questions.
Do I have a motion to acknowledge time extension for project 134943, FEMA 2019 September flood application 446D69DR-SD?
So moved.
Second.
Chad, I have one question. Is this just the rock walls, no bridges?
Correct.
Okay.
And this particular site is the one north of 7th Street.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Thel.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item 3, acknowledge time extension for project 135906, FEMA 2019 flood, September flood application 4469DR-SD. Is this basically the same thing?
I would submit the same comments,
Okay.
Your Honor. The only thing is I provided a bit of information to the commission that we do not, contrary to what I had indicated in my memo, we do not anticipate additional easements or right-of-way will be needed at this location because, the wall is well contained within the city property within the park. I was referring instead to the previous site north of 7th Street. Just a clarification on that. But otherwise, I would stand by the same comments that I provided for item number 2.
The area on this one for me, Chad?
This is Memorial Park.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to acknowledge time extension for project 135906, FEMA 2019 September flood application number 4469DR-SD?
So moved. Second.
Any further comments or questions? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Thel.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item 4, acknowledge time extension for project 135909, FEMA 2019 September flood application 4469 DRSD.
Same comments, Your Honor, regarding the first two. This location is between Egan and North Avenues along the creek.
Okay. Do I have an acknowledgement time extension for project 135909 FEMA 2019 September flood application, applicant 4469 DRSD?
So approved. Go.
Second.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, you're gonna put footings on the bottom of that so that rock wall's got something to be tied to?
Yeah, we have prepared an alternative already that is to repair the wall in kind, or as it was, if you will, which did include some scour footings / scour support, but we will probably pursue an alternative if we can have that be approved by FEMA and the historic people for that. But if we go back with what is there, that is what we would hope to do. Yes.
Okay, because there's a lot
Whether or
of,
not it's approved or we can fund it is a different discussion. We're still working on that, but that is part of the proposal. Yes.
there's a lot of footings that has been washed out in that area, so.
Right, and I would say we refer to them as footings, we think of them as footings, but really, it depends how you define footing. There's not, it's really scour protection, and it's not ideal scour protection at that. Footing, one traditionally thinks of it's a foundation or a base for a structural element, and there isn't, but I know what you mean, and you and I worked on these before,
Yeah.
so, but yeah.
So, okay.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Commissioner Thill?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. I have the consent calendar.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Yep. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Commissioner Thill?
Aye.
And Mayor Denner?
All right. We'll move down into unfinished business. Considering the selling city property north of Horseshoe Pit at the West Side Park. We had some discussion on this last week, and we had Jen put it back on after Mr. Jinks has told us that we needed to get some appraisals. So we were going to move forward to do that. In the meantime, Mr. McGilvery had touched base with me, and being this piece of property was either bought or developed with a grant, there's a lot of hoops that we got to jump through, and at this point in time, we're going to back away from selling that piece of property. I have reached out and talked to Mr. Pulford. He's okay with that, and we'll go from there. Do we need a motion or anything on that, Jen?
I don't feel so, David. It's a consider. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions for me on that?
Thanks for looking into it.
Yep, not a problem. All right. We will go down into new business. Item 1, Chad and Jen, authorize the mayor to sign grant pre-application FAA-AIP 3-46-0029-020-2021 Construction South GA Apron Expansion.
I can say a few words on
Okay.
it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, members of the public listening. If I may include in the agenda packet is multiple pages for the grant pre-application. What this is similar to what we've done in the past. This is an item requested and required by the FAA for airports to submit with what they plan to do for the upcoming year 2021. This doesn't commit the city to anything other than to give, what it does is it gives the FAA a heads up of what the plan is. The airport board had reviewed this and recommended approval, and at which meeting and other meetings with staff and the consultant and the airport manager, they also reviewed the capital improvement plan, and as the mayor had indicated, one of the main items on this pre-application checklist, which is as it is listed in the agenda item, is to construct the apron expansion. That's the big ticket item and really the main one, actually, now that I look at this a little closer. So that is the main one. There'll be subsequent meetings to make actually an application, but before that even happens, we'll be standing by to hear from the FAA and the state of South Dakota, because this project may or may not be able to be funded because there's a funding shortfall from the funding sources that we have. However, we've been going down the path of having these plans on the shelf, so to speak, so that if something frees up, which commonly does, or another airport doesn't pursue a project, we can take those funds rather than returning them and such like that. So that may or may not happen, or if there's another stimulus bill or something like that, we want to try to be in a position that we can take advantage of. The CARES Act funding is another one that came across that was kind of unknown recently. So that would be the plan, and the airport board recommends approval. I talked to Commissioner Phil about this briefly today, and I think he was at the airport board meeting.
Yes.
Not, and I would recommend that we approve.
Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign grant pre-application FAA AIP 3-46-0029-020-2021 Construct South GA Apron Expansion?
So approved.
Second.
Jen, I didn't have to give you time to.
It's all right. Can I just quickly speak to the numbers? As per the application in your packet, the estimated funding on page 3 totals $1,444,000. In our 2021 budget, you will remember putting $1.5 million worth of total project cost into the budget. We also offset that $1.5 million with the potential funding, the grant funding, 90% from the feds, 3.5% from the state, which leaves the city with 6.5%. It's all in your 2021 budget. And we would agree that if there's no federal funding, there would be no project.
Chad, on this map here, it's the dark bets.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
That would be the expansion, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Ware,
Aye.
Commissioner Thill,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item 2, Brad, authorize the mayor to sign agreement Open Access Technology International, Inc., Web Smart Energy Service.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. You should have in your packet 44 pages of 3 different documents. The first one is a Smart Web Energy Service Agreement. Attachment A is the service specification, and attachment B is the price schedule. This is the main meter reading and the conservation voltage reduction software and hardware, and that's the kind of the bread and butter. This is what's going to get our meters read as we move forward and we move out of the drive-by unit. There's a couple things I want to point out. The biggest thing is that obviously there's a hefty price tag at the end of this if you go into Part B and go towards the back of it. We are not going to have to pay all of that as it's listed here, the $273,500. We have worked out a deal with OATI due to our limited funds in the budget for this year to pull that down to $43,500. That'll be what's billable in 2020. We'd also worked out the deal with Utilismart to cut their services fees in half at $37,000, which gives us a total of $80,500. And talking with Jen today, we have, if we apply that straight to our budget in the line items that we have for this particular project using the Tyler leftover money, we would be short in all three utilities, with the electric being the worst at $34,000 short. And originally we started out with, like I say, a very small budget because it was the leftover money from the Tyler project, and we had to try to morph that into putting in this AMI project. So we're going to be a little bit shy. The good news is we have enough cash in all three utilities to cover everything. There's no issue with the amount of money that's available. It's just that in that line item that we chose to try to purchase this out of, we are going to be short. The term on this is 5 years. And then the subsequent term was 36 months. And there is an $8,500 a month fee once we get up and running.
Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign agreement Open Access Technology International, Inc., Web Smart Energy Service?
So moved.
Second.
I do have a couple comments. First of all, I want to start off, I'm not opposed to this project, but I have some concerns. Are we keeping everybody informed on what's going on? My understanding, this isn't just a meter swap. I mean, it's going to affect finance, it's going to affect utility billing, it's going to affect one of our employees that does the meter reading right now. Are we keeping everybody in the loop on this?
We've done our level best to try to get everybody brought into it at the beginning, and had circulated emails, had a meeting here in this commission room to talk about it, and have been working with everybody as far as costs and what it's going to take to do. I know the gals in the utility billing have come, and they went to some of the presentations and tried to get everybody invited to those as much as they wanted to come. So we tried to keep everybody up to speed as much as possible.
Okay. What about, I know we already talked about the Celeron. I know with our other Tyler meetings, that the person that we've been dealing with on Tyler isn't real comfortable with this prepaid. And it's my understanding we want to even switch all our credit cards over to Celeron.
Mr. Mayor, we want to look at what that would cost. There's no necessarily that we're going to. We want to just see what it would cost, see if there's any way for us to save money and only have one credit card vendor up until the time that we transition into Tyler. We're with D&T Ventures right now, and so we have that credit card company doing our work. If we have another one doing some of our work, we'll have two credit card companies working together, doing some of our work as far as gathering money for the utilities. The question was, could we have just one for the time being from now till the time that we transition into Tyler? And working with Acceleron, they are doing a conversion with Tyler in Code 10 in Greenville, Texas, right now. So they are working with them right now. I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know that they are working with them right now.
And have you gave Nancy that? I know at our last Tyler meeting, she wanted to know the company and where that was. Did we get that information to her so she's comfortable? I guess what I'm saying is, if Tyler is saying no, they only have 2 credit card vendors, and we're going down this road, I don't want to get trapped in the corner. So, I guess
I think
that's,
there's more to discuss, if I may. I think there's more to discuss. From what I understand, there's maybe some imports. If we are to use Acceleron, there's maybe some import type processes. I think there's more on our end as far as Brad and Finance and Kristen to further discuss as far as before we would make any kind of switch. We of course need to know that Tyler's on board. Short-term switch versus when and if we get to Tyler. There's a lot to discuss when it comes to credit card vendors. Please.
and of course, if we have to do importing, we'll have to probably get another company to do that switch over for importing. Maybe this is too early to be talking about this, but I just don't want to go down a road that we can't turn around and get back on. That's all
I agree, but
that's my concern. I'm not against this project. I think we need to upgrade the project, or upgrade our system, but I don't want to.
And I'm not gonna disagree with you either. I think we need to make sure that we don't get ourselves caught into a pickle, that's all. I understand what you're saying
Okay.
when it comes to the credit card component of it, so.
We need to look at this picture a little bit more before we make a decision.
But this doesn't deal with the credit card piece. This is something completely different.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Thill.
Nay.
Mayor Denner.
Nay. Chad, item 3, consider sidewalk committee recommendation for 2021 sidewalk improvement project. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Including the agenda packet, actually the last page of the agenda packet is the minutes from the sidewalk committee. They met on October 8th. City Commission Liaison Shaw was there, and Mayor Denner to participate in those discussions as well. And that was what I would call our normal annual meeting, where the sidewalk committee would convene after the budget is set and review potential locations for assessments recommendations for, in this case, 2021. So that was done. There was a discussion of some of the previous areas that we looked at in previous years that we couldn't get to, and just look at a map of the town to see where there's gaps or areas we need to try to infill. The goal, as has been stated back in the 1996 comprehensive plan and again in the 2008 comprehensive plan, is to try to get sidewalks throughout town, and so that's one of the main functions of the sidewalk committee. So from that, discussion. You see the draft minutes. There was 6 areas recommended to put in sidewalks, and a couple other ramps that aren't listed here that are more spot areas. But these are the areas that would mostly affect landowners if this proceeds in this fashion. And so what we have done at this particular meeting, at this point in time in years past, is the commission would review this list and make a recommendation or direction to the city, my office. And then what we would do is start looking up legal descriptions and working those into resolutions of necessity. And then that process would continue. There'd be a hearing, and then the commission would ultimately make the final decision on the final areas subsequent to that. But there's about at least a month or so of work that needs to be done, looking up properties and so on, and to bring those forth into resolutions. Also this year, we have to do some review of some of the statute changes that took place, and it went into effect, I think it was July 1st is when they went into effect, to make sure that some of the labeling and processes were used are annotated, if you will, correctly and legal, I guess you could say. Jen, we work closely with Jen and her staff to do that, and then of course Mr. Jenks to make sure we're not going astray. So with that, I'd be happy to try to stand by for questions. Yeah, I'll stand by for questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to consider sidewalk committee recommendation for 2021 sidewalk improvement project?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. And this is just improvement, which means new sidewalks, not repairs, correct, Chad?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think we'll get, for the money we got allotted for the sidewalk, do you think we will get down to item number 5?
Yes, I do. I do believe that, and I should, maybe the best way to answer is to elaborate what the sidewalk committee, we've worked into a process where the city commission has typically allocated $40,000 to do the ramps along these selected routes. And so a list of priorities is presented to the sidewalk committee. They review those as far as if they agree or want to shuffle up the order or whatever it may be. And then the recommendation is to evaluate these routes, estimate the cost of the ramps necessary on the routes until we get up to that, not up to it, but just slightly below the $40,000. And that's what had been used in the past. So that's what I did here. I did an inventory and made some estimates, and I believe we can get through all 6 of these locations next year. The other thing I should note, and you'll note this in these minutes, there are 3 areas, items number 3, 4, and 6, that have the word city in parentheses. Those areas, particularly number 3 and number 6, are along the creek. And there's flood buyout properties there, city properties. There will be sidewalks proposed to be put in, paid for by the city along those areas. Number 4 is also along the garden plot area. That also has the parentheses city there. So that would be on 4th Street. Those, the costs for any sidewalk, not the corners, not the AA ramps, but these costs along the city properties where these flood lots are and along the garden plots has historically come from a different reserve. Coordinated with Ms. Eimers, we do have a reserve, I believe, yes, we will have $75,000 in that reserve next year. Due to these recommended areas, there is a pretty significant cost over and above that above the 40,000 that will be incurred if we end up selecting these areas in the final decision. Perhaps about $47,000 worth. And so that would if the goal is for the city to get sidewalks everywhere, eventually we have to get them in along private and public properties. And so there's funds available, and that was part of the recommendation of the sidewalk committee.
I feel that's only fair if we're gonna make the residents put in sidewalk. We need to put sidewalk into our city, on our city property too.
Yes, and that was discussed.
I also made the comment in that meeting, the fact that the city's gonna bear some of the burden this year and not pass it all on to the homeowner.
Right.
So,
Do you know, not putting you on the spot, do you know how many ramps on the city stuff that we're gonna have, Chad, or gonna need? That are gonna come out of the 40,000, correct?
Correct.
Right.
I did do an inventory. I didn't itemize those for this discussion, but I could look through those here. We got so right now maybe 12 ramps, separate ramps. I believe is where we're at approximately. So some of the areas selected, there's very minimal city work.
Okay.
And in particular, for example, like items 1 and 2, there's very few ramps.
Okay.
Because of the past work that the committee has
Right.
done and the commission has approved to get those ramps put in on other intersecting roads and such. But maybe about 12 or so. Because
Okay.
my cost estimating is it's a combination of, remove some areas where the curb isn't removed, you gotta remove the curb, remove sidewalk, and then put the new ramp in at a different slope, and the little dimpled tiles at the end, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it's not just the ramp, but there's a lot of different components that go into that.
And if I may, if all of this does come to fruition, if all of these city areas do make it through the process, we'll have to come back to you with authorization to use that reserve. We only have $100,000 right now in your 2021 budget. Okay, but we're comfortable, we build that reserve for a reason, we're comfortable in bringing it back to you for potential use again in 2021, as we discussed probably about the time we start bidding this project.
When you say 120, that doesn't include the reserve, correct?
Right now, there's 100,000 in your 2021 budget, and that does not include the reserve.
That's okay.
But that does include the city portion
Right.
of these projects and the property owner portion of these
Yep.
projects.
Yep.
Right, Chad?
And so in other words, of the 100, 40,000 for ramps, the other 60 for maybe property owners that would opt to have it be assessed. And
Right.
those would be recouped over time through that process, through
Right.
filing them with the.
But we still have to pay the contractor up front, and then we'll get it on the backside 5 years. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And once again, we budget both ends.
Right.
We
We
budget
budget
both
both
ends, even
ends.
for the recouping from those property owners.
Did you want to touch anything on the narrow right-of-way, or did you want to wait till see if that goes through?
No, I'm fine talking about that. You'll notice on these, on those minutes, the one comment is on item number 5, narrow right-of-way. There's, I believe, primarily three streets in town, Kansas, Olive, and Catherine, that have a dedicated right-of-way of about 60 feet in width. The normally it's 66 or even 80 and something. That's the bulk of them. Well, anyway, as you can imagine, with a 60-foot, that doesn't leave a lot of space behind the back of the curb to place the sidewalk. Particularly when we have a standard, we try to keep it away from the first 5 feet of that. So really, there's no room to wiggle that around. And so if there's trees and bushes and such in there, pretty much they'll need to be removed. And just as an FYI, I've already talked to Mr. Gagnon about that, and actually Commissioner Phil and I had a chance to visit about it briefly as well. Removing those trees has been something that the City Commission has always wanted us to do, to work with landowners. If there's costs over and above simply installing the sidewalk, they've wanted the city to participate. In rare occasions, we've had to participate in a retaining wall, or a little bit of, if it's extra excavation, the city has participated, and then as far as tree removal as well. And that's handled by the Public Works Department. We coordinate with them and they'll do that. So that's how we've done it in the past.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments or discussion?
I'm kinda out in left field on this, Josephine and Union, you gonna do both sides of the street?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's always been the policy, since I think, they started this in '04, I came in '05, and we continue, we've never not put sidewalk in on both sides, you know, because that gets to be challenging for many reasons, you know, why are you putting it on their side, not my side? So the short answer to your question is, I would presume that we will continue the status quo, and if we're gonna select a route, sidewalk will be put in on both sides. Yep, yes.
And none of these overlap our RD project.
Yeah, that's correct. And we did, as we were looking at the recommendations with the sidewalk committee, we did highlight those areas, so we basically wanted to avoid them because it's just too much going on and trying to have their contractors in conflict with our contractors and such, so we just highlighted that area and said, let's just stay away from that area and we can get back in there when the dust settles, so to speak, on those areas. Yes, that's correct.
Any other comments, discussion? Not hearing any. Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Thales?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Item 4. Just had some concerns. I know we're doing work out at the Madison Municipal Utility Building with concrete on the front part of that. Just issues. Are we going to be good with cold, or is this going to ruin our warranty? Is he still going to warranty? What kind of warranty are we going to get with it being this late? I guess that's all I had questions about.
The ACS, a little bitter, I spoke with Jeremiah Jordan, and he said there'd be no problem. He's done concrete and cool weather before, it's not an issue. They just pour the concrete and blanket it, and everything will be just fine. Might take a little extra time to cure before we put traffic on it, but other than that, there's no issues in his mind. And actually, once you know a little bit about concrete, you know that as you slow the cure down, the stronger the concrete gets.
Okay.
So you just have to wait a little longer.
Okay. Warranty, what kind of?
It's standard construction warranty, 1 year.
1 year? Okay. We don't need a motion or anything on that, Jen. Are you okay with that? I just had a couple questions.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I do have a handout for you, just for your,
Yep.
this is the global forecast system response model for the next 2 weeks.
You gonna believe them?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been pretty good. I mean, they're not gonna be exact, temperatures or anything like that, but they'll give you a pretty good idea what the trend is gonna be. And this is compared to average or normal, whichever word you want to use for what the weather would typically be on this day. And as you can see, it's gonna be above average for the next 2 weeks in prediction. And the trend has been relatively good lately. They have a little trouble at the shoulder months because of the volatility, but anyway, that's what the forecast is for the next couple of weeks. And if you look at your apps, you'll see that on there. Hopefully it comes to fruition.
Me too.
We only need a couple good days and we can have it all done.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Just was concerned, more than anything. Thank you, Brad. Any updates on COVID? No?
You gonna take samples of that? Core
We haven't
samples? Huh?
we have not been.
Oh, okay. Is that a good deal or a bad deal, Chad?
Depends on the work, if it's a structural element or a bridge or a box culvert, that's more commonly tested with flat work, curb and gutter, on a lot of projects, including DOT projects where they use a concrete type called M6 concrete. It's not always tested. What you can do in lieu of that, in my experience, is you get a mix design, so you see what the mix is, and then you verify that with the load tickets and so on, that it's a proper mix. And so it's dealt with more on a certification type basis. So it's a preference. You can test or you don't need to test. There's other ways to have assurances of quality, and we've done that. We work with ACS, as you're aware, on the playground, and that's the mechanism we used on that. Was we reviewed the batch tickets and verified it was in compliance with the certification forms and so on. So you can test or not test. There's multiple ways to deal with it, and these are not structural elements in that they're a box culvert wall or a bridge deck or something like that, but still important, but they're just different ways.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Bill, I skipped too quick for you. Okay, update, nothing on, okay. Public comment,
Nothing tonight, sir?
announcements. I have one announcement here. Being we're in a Zoom meeting, and we will be going into exec session here, and we could possibly potentially have some consideration of personal matter after we come out of exec, and we don't know how long it's going to take for the exec, hopefully not that long. But to get you guys back onto Zoom, it was kind of a difficult task to know when you can come back on. So if you would like to come in, I'm not saying we're going to have any consideration, but if you would like to come in, Mr. Waldner's going to come down here for exec, so we will be starting here whenever he can get down here. And you're sure welcome to come down to see if we have any motions made on that consideration. That's all I have. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried. So we'll go into exec, and if you guys want to come down, like I said, hopefully it won't take us too long. Well, we're back after exec session. Do I have a motion to accept Jen Eimer's resignation from Finance Director? So moved.
Second.
Okay. Do I have any comments or discussion? Not hearing any. We'll take roll call vote here. Commissioner Waldner. Aye. Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Thill.
Aye.
Mayor Dennett. Aye. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you and have a nice evening.